Waiting. All right, live. Hi, guys. Sorry, I was having some technical difficulties trying to get this thing up on my phone. It was getting stuck in the email. Maybe you guys might be having the same issue, I don't know. But it wasn't opening over on YouTube. Hasn't gone live yet, just waiting for it to go live so I can make sure the sound is good and everything. Then I'll hit record and we'll dive into March. Still waiting. Okay, what's going on? This should be live. Maybe. Oh no, it's still not live on my phone. Okay, there I am. All right. Cool. And the sound seems good. Yes. All right, perfect. All right, hi guys. I'm going to go ahead over here and hit record really quick for the uploaded video inside the platform for this 2024 webinar. For those of you watching this later on YouTube when I release this in March, hi, welcome. This is the March video from my 2024 Year Ahead webinar, which is still available to purchase. The link will be down below at some point. Yeah, we've only made it to March. We have all of the rest of the months to go, and we'll meet again in the summer to dive deep into the second half of the year. So that'll be linked down below. All right, let me hit record. Hi guys, welcome back to our Year Ahead webinar that is going much deeper than first anticipated. I guess we should probably just assume this by now. You know, I never really go into any moon video or anything wanting to, cover so many different topics. I just find them along the way and then I have to tell you all the things. So this Year Ahead webinar has spawned into several videos. We're just going to do a video now for each month. It'll be easy for you guys to reference back throughout the year. And then it'll be easy for me to release these later on YouTube throughout the year as the astrology is happening. And it'll be a nice reminder for us to go back and watch it and be like, oh yeah, I was there when Allie was talking about this in the beginning of the year. I see how that's kind of playing out now. And it'll be a refresher. And I think that it's interesting that Mercury retrograde and the Mercury retrograde cycle all over my chart has forced me to rewrite, restructure, realign my vision for this webinar in such a way that it will make it easier for us to revisit and remember this information throughout the year. It's just kind of archetypally beautiful. Freaking Mercury, oh my god, he just drives you nuts. And then in the end, you're like, all right, buddy, I see what that was all about. I got you. All right, so I guess we'll just kind of dive in. I want to start first with the cards. So we have been pulling archetype cards for each of the months. January started off with the shapeshifter. Right now, as I'm recording this, we are very much in the shape-shifting energy. I'm recording this on January 7th, the beginning of the year. So we're still very much within this shape-shifting energy. The year kicked off with a shift. Jupiter, Mercury, they move direct. All of the planets are now in a direct motion. Uranus, not until later. Uranus still stations direct at the end of the month. Once Uranus stations direct on the 26th, then everything is now in a direct motion. We're still waiting for Uranus. But right now in March, planets are moving direct. Is anything stationed in February? Let me just look at February. No. No. So right now in March, we still have everything moving direct. It's not until March 18th, the day before the equinox, that Mercury moves into its next shadow period in Aries. All of the Mercury retrogrades in 2024 are in fire signs. So we had our last one, for the most part, in Sagittarius. It dipped over into Capricorn. And now in March, we have Mercury about to station retrograde. It actually stations retrograde on the 1st of April, but it enters its shadow here in March. So here in the beginning of the year, we have the shapeshifter. Tons of shifting energy. It's Jupiter, Mercury stationing direct, Pluto changing signs, big shifts in the energetic expression of the cosmos. In February, we kind of hit a storm. I mean, we do every year. When we enter into Pisces season, we enter into a storm every year. It's the end of the zodiac. It's the end of this trip of the individuation process. It's the end of a hero's journey. It's a merger with the oneness that births this whole existence. We lose ourselves a little bit. Now, I talk a lot about the Axis Mundi and like finding your northern star and finding your center. This is something that is done towards the end of Sag season and beginning of Capricorn season. So right around the winter solstice, every year we reach that peak of our hero's journey where we align with the pole star, the sun does. We align with the galactic center. We activate that axis mundi, that middle pillar, that center of everything. And we reach the peak, the top of the zodiac chart, and the peak of the individuation process, the peak of our hero's journey, the peak of the development of the self. The end of Sag season is that peak of the development of you as an individual in your hero's journey and your quest. From there, we move into Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And this is where we really start to merge very much more so with the outside world, and then like society as a whole, and then like the collective psyche. And we lose ourselves to a certain extent. We enter into a storm of the whole. Now, if we found our northern star along the way, if we're working to develop that like inner voice, that inner guidance system, that center, then we can find the eye of the storm, and we can navigate our way through it by following that northern star so we don't get lost in the collective chaos, especially throughout 2024, because we have Pluto moving through Aquarius. And then after that, being there for 20 years, it's going to move into Pisces, like Pluto, the planet of control and destruction and occult hidden influences, psychological influences. It's also the planet of like the mysteries and penetrating into the depths of yourself, but it has this strong essence of control. And right now that planet of control is moving through the collective mind. It is moving through Aquarius, and then it will move through Pisces, the collective consciousness and the collective unconsciousness. The mind, the collective mind, is very much in a fucking storm, and it is going to be for quite some time. And as we transit through Aquarius season and Pisces season, which started back on the 18th of February, and right now we're still very much in it. Aries season doesn't start until the equinox on the 19th of March. When we're in this somewhat cataclysmic ending. Aquarius is said esoterically, in like esoteric symbolic astrology, to bring the flood. It is pouring the waters of that then merge with Pisces, the cosmic waters. And Pisces is considered the flood, the fall, the end. But it's the end that births something new, much like a storm births like a fertile new beginning, births a rainbow, births the ability to start anew. Sometimes land needs that water, it needs that clearing, it needs that destruction. And February, we kind of entered somewhat of a storm. I don't know what went on in February as I'm recording this because it is January. I don't know what went on in February. I don't know. But we had some crazy aspects happen. We had the sun and the moon at the time of the Aquarius new moon square the ruler of Aquarius, Uranus. We had Mars enter Aquarius, we had Venus enter Aquarius, and then we had the Sun and Mercury entering Pisces. We had a lot of interesting aspects. Chiron conjunct the North Node. Things I assume collectively, considering we're in an election year, I assume things went down that were quite maybe unpredictable or erratic or electric or futuristic or focused on some sort of high technological, unexpected, rebellious, freedom-oriented breakout of sorts. I have no idea. Like I said, this is we're projecting into the future. Who knows? But February brought some kind of storm, but like I said, it does every year, whether we have transits like this happening or not that are quite electric and unpredictable because of Uranus. We always reach the end of the zodiac, so we always are experiencing some sort of ending, some sort of maybe existential moment. I know sometimes Pisces season hits me pretty hard, and I have like a literal like existential moments of just like, what in the hell? I don't know, but February was a storm. Now we're moving into March. And in March, the archetype card I pulled is the prayer. So I'm going to go ahead and read this from the book. But it tells me that like we're shifting, right? So January triggered the shape-shifting energy, but the shapeshifter still need to do its shape-shifting, right? Just because planets stationed direct and Pluto moved signs, it didn't mean anything actually really transpired yet. We still had to do some shifting, right? So I'm thinking February was a lot of the shifting, and I think it was quite chaotic and unpredictable, and we were just like, wow. Like, I know a lot of stuff has already gone down in 2024. We've got like Miami, alien invasion, bullshit, Epstein, documents released, podcasts going viral. People are talking about all kinds of seemingly hidden things. The year has started with a bang already, and I assume that February it's also a leap year month, so I assume it was quite cataclysmic. I don't know exactly what went down in February, but there was just some shifting, right? And then throughout it, we are able to connect more deeply to the spiritual dimension, right? We were talking a lot about Neptune in all of these videos, this whole webinar, how it's really time for us to make right with Neptune's energy, that it's more so than just that essence of confusion and illusion and delusion and fog and madness and escapism and fantasy. While it does govern all of those things, it also governs, and Pisces, the season we are in this part of the lecture, Pisces and Neptune, which is at home in Pisces right now, finishing out this very long transit through its home sign, preparing to conjunct Saturn. And Neptune and Pisces, well, yes, it governs all of those things I just listed. It also governs our innate psychic senses and our connection to the spiritual dimension. It governs dreams. It governs visions. It governs creativity, art, and music. It governs the collective unconscious. Everything we know and everything we don't know or could possibly know or have forgotten. Everything that exists, it's where we merge with that whole. And throughout this shifting into the storm, we are going to connect much more deeply to the divine, which is really the point of this all, right? So I'm going to go ahead and read this from the book, which I'm not sure where I put. So maybe February was a shit show. I don't know. We're all going to be commenting on these videos later in the year, being like, February is a shit show. Okay. February is usually a shit show for me every year because it just how it aspects my chart. Like, Pisces season does me dirt. But I'm over here being like, we gotta make right with it. But I literally have Neptune square my sun natally, so I have to make right with it. I have to. Okay. The prayer. I'm coming for you. Alright, so we've been in the storm, right? Maybe I had something I was going to say about that, but we're going to move on and we are going to read this prayer from the book. Right. The prayer, the worship, the reverence, the homage. What is prayer? When are we in a state of prayer and when are we not? To whom or to what do we pray? Archetypally, the practice of prayer has been with us since the dawn of time as a remedy for the omnipresent, self-centered thinking that spins us towards illusion. Prayer leads us beyond our ego as we move from our little story to the big one. Oh my god, this card's kind of perfect. Some say we are in a state of prayer anytime we are not at the center of our own thoughts. Others say prayer is a natural result of gratitude. Perhaps it is simple surrender or service. Well, we will have a Virgo full moon this month, so service is definitely a focus. Others say prayer is a natural result of gratitude. Perhaps it is simply surrender or service. Whatever prayer is for you, this card reminds us of its importance. Get quiet, low, humble, and soft. Bow and touch the ground as your heart lifts to the sky. Though it may be uncomfortable, it is time. Nothing else will do. Experiment with the act of bowing down. Nearly all spiritual traditions make a practice of this. Every song, kiss, breath, word can become a prayer. It is a feeling, not an action. Consider the ancient mantra. Oh my god, I'm going to just destroy this mantra. I'm just going to read what it translates to rather than, I just know it's going to be so bad. I just can't do it. I'm so sorry. So it means I bow to the creative consciousness within. I bow to the teacher within. I'm going to spell it, okay? ONGNAMO Guru Dev Namo. So I don't know how to say that first word. O-N-G. That's the only one I don't know how to say. O-N-G and then Namo Guru Dev Namo. And it means I bow to the creative consciousness within. I bow to the teacher within. O-N-G? I don't know. When this archetype is evolved, it is offering to be of service. And it is asking for guidance. When it is in its lower archetype, however, it is expecting results. And aggrandizement, not really sure if I'm saying that word right, but I think it means like a grandiose view of the self. But are you expecting results? Are you bending things to your will? Or are you offering up yourself to like a service to this like omnipresent force and asking for guidance for like your part in this, right? And this is something we do every Pisces season. We always do. These cards they never really disappoint, but like yet again they came through. So shapeshifter, storm, and then we find our prayer, right? Like what kind of prayer are we asking? Are we like down on our knees, like because the storm has like rocked our fucking world? Or is that storm like led us to some sort of spiritual connection that we did not have before? Maybe we honed it a little bit more deeply. Okay, I have a couple more cards, but we will do this at the end. Don't let me forget. These are the last two. This is just to kind of summarize how we can... Well, we're doing the cards now, so let me just finish it because I'll probably forget. So these cards are how we can navigate this trajectory here with the most ease. Okay? What is it we need to do to get from the shifter through the storm to this prayer? Like what is going down here, right? So I pulled from that other deck that I use. And the first card that came out is Air of Shadow, Unseated Anxiety. So you guys have heard me talk about these cards a million times. It's the Wild Harmonic Oracle. Each card is a mixture of two realms. There's all of the elements, earth, air, fire, water, celestial, spiritual, dimensional realm, and then the shadow realm. And they say if you pull a shadow card, that's what's kind of like standing in your way and what you need to like work through. And so the first card I pulled was a shadow card. So this is where we're kind of at. I mean, I feel it. I don't know about you. And this is shadows of air. So these are shadows of the mind, right? And then you pull another card to see how you work through this. And the card that I pulled, which just makes so much sense for Pisces season, of course, is Dimension. So this is the shadow realm. This is the dimensional realm, like multi-dimensional realm. And it's the dimension of water. So perfect for Pisces, right? And it says holistic synergy. And I love how it like depicts what kind of happens in Pisces where we like literally merge with the collective whole and we all like unite. But then it has this like core central point here in the middle that looks a lot like the stars rotating around the pole star, right? That center force that if we can connect to, we will not lose ourselves within this sea of archetypal storm that is Pisces. It's literally where we merge with the totality of every freaking thing, the light, the dark, the yin and the yang, and everything in between. The lie, the truth, the illusion, the spiritual dimension, right? And we can very much lose ourselves in this, or we can merge with this while connecting to the source that birthed this to begin with, right? Okay, so let me read these from the book, and then we'll get into the chart. I've got the cards out of the way. All right, so Air of Shadow. As the interconnected intelligence falls into denial, it scares itself away from empowerment. Dark thoughts and frightful suspicions that tumble into a self-perpetuating startlement that keeps us from standing in our power and facing the unknown. This card indicates how one can interpret the mysterious in a negative way, and thereby can elicit a narrative that scares us from our throne. Pisces literally governs fears. It literally governs the monsters in our mind, right? When day or nightmares governs dreams and nightmares. When day or nightmares find their way to me, the sheer shock of their presence is often enough to keep me from positive action. Fear is a completely overwhelming energy that requires a truly heroic mood to face without a fight or flight response. When we can see through the narrative that got us all worked up, we can then find a new description that unites instead of divides. Until then, this too shall pass. That's so very AA. They say that in AA like all the time. When you're like going through it or whatever, they're like, this too shall pass. You're like, shut the fuck up. One day at a time. Oh my god. All right. Inquiry. So here's a question to ask yourself. What fears do I nurture that keep me from my power? Okay. And then just tell yourself, this too shall pass. Oh, Lord. Okay. So this is how we move through this, right? This probably has a lot to do with the storm, all right? A lot of this is probably going to be playing out in the collective mind. Like I said, it really will be once Pluto, it's going to be like 40 years of Pluto just moving through our collective consciousness. It just destroyed our outer world. He just completely obliterated everything we thought we knew of the outside world, of systems of control and hierarchy and governments and corporations and the realm of Capricorn, right? This capitalistic illusion, the American dream, right? It has been obliterated, and now it is so that it can be reborn, right? Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. Like, it's not just killing things for no reason. It's doing it so that it could be reborn anew, right? Like the phoenix. And now it's moving through Aquarius, and then it will move through Pisces, the collective conscious and the collective unconscious. Is getting an overhaul and a rebirth. All right, so this is how we move through this unseated anxiety and the air of shadow, those shadows of the mind. We move through it through the dimension of water because we have no choice because we're moving through Pisces season and Neptune's there. And we got a lot going on over in Pisces right now. Holistic synergy. All right. I love these cards. They're just like literally my favorite. All right. As the interconnected intelligence. Nope. This is the same one we just read. Okay. Hold on. As the energies of the dimensional expanse embody into the flowing feeling of life, an opening into completion arises. How are these cards so perfect? Pisces is literally the completion of the zodiac, like this storm we're going through, this like merger we're going through, this dimension of water. This completion is literally the end of the zodiac, but the birth of the next, right? Empowerment, moving to reinforce itself. A quickening of the journey as the channels are opened. And the amazing grace of life as a living choice. This card points me into the opening within me that creates the opening in the world. It reminds me that if I cannot do powerful things, to instead do whatever I am doing with power. I am seeing life from simplicity, from a one-point perspective. What am I seeing? Hold on. Am I seeing life from simplicity? A one point of perspective, but there's no question mark at the end of that. So is that a question? Am I seeing life from simplicity? One point of perspective? don't know. Is it a question or is it a statement? You figure it out. Am I seeing life from simplicity? 1 point perspective. What I am seeing is infinite complexity. Embracing both, I learn to feel the ebbs and flows of where I am at. With that knowledge, I can find the point to enter and ride the wave. These cards are just so good. All right, so last one, inquiry. What part of myself needs integration in order to bring greater ability to my experience? Which is just a perfect question to ask yourself every Pisces season, or during whatever season governs your 12th house as well, because that is the house of the unintegrated self, and Pisces governs the unintegrated collective self. So to move through this, we use this. All right, let's get out of the cards. We're done with the cards. Hopefully that was insightful. Let me go ahead and go over here, and we will share my screen. Oh, my back is killing me, you guys. And hop over to the chart, and we left off at February 29th last night, and so now we are on March 1st. So you guys all should have your calendars. Those of you who are who purchased the year ahead, you guys all have the downloadable calendar. Okay, I just have like a million different notes here. I'm trying to put this in a way that makes sense, but I'm feeling like none of it really does make sense. All right, so here on the 1st of March, we have a couple things happening. So we talked earlier in the last video about the black holes here in Aquarius. There are two, known as Cygnus 1 and Cygnus 3. I assume there's also a Cygnus 2, but I don't know where that falls in on a zodiac chart. Cygnus 1 falls here at 13 degrees, and Cygnus 3 falls at, I think, 28 degrees. 28 degrees, yeah. And this one here that Mars aligns with on the 1st of March, after the Sun and Mercury just did the same thing, Venus did as well, Mars, the last of the personal planets, now makes his trek along this black hole. Now this black hole, like we talked about in the last video, revert back to that to find the whole spiel on it, but this black hole was the first black hole we ever discovered. Ever. And we discovered it here in Aquarius, smack dab in the, it's in the constellation of Cygnus, which falls zodiacally in the sign of Aquarius. And it was the first black hole we ever discovered. And we found this here, smack dab in the sign that governs our like collective mind, right? And the first black hole, the first source of galactic consciousness, the first singularity discovered out there in outer space, this first like hole in the space-time continuum that we officially discovered, which we discovered in 1964. It wasn't official until 1973, but it was first discovered in 1964. This is the biggest black hole that we know of, pretty much to date. We've since found one bigger, but I don't know. Again, I don't know where it falls in the zodiac chart yet, so until I can find it here, it means nothing to me. But they have since found one bigger. But up until a couple months ago, maybe like a year ago, this was the literal biggest hole in space that we know of. Smack dab in the middle of Aquarius. Is it any wonder that that sign is so strange and so weird? Well, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, all of the personal planets just transited over this point. Mars on the 1st of March making his pass. Then Mars and Venus still are transiting towards Cygnus 3, which falls here at 28 degrees. So we're still very much feeling this like galactic influence, which is very large. The one here that they have yet to make it to, they reach it, I'm sure I have it here. Mars reaches it on the 21st. This one literally straddles the plane of our galaxy. So it's in a really profound place in the as above, right? So therefore it is mirrored down to the so below in that archetypal expression, right? This is why I feel Aquarius is so focused on the future, right? And these like higher futuristic forms of consciousness, the awakening process, the process of liberation, is because of this massive galactic influence here. A black hole literally is the future of a sun, right? So a sun, a star, a big sun will live out its whole life as a sun, and in the end of that, in the end of its evolution, it will go supernova, condense it down in upon itself, and pierce the fabric of the space-time continuum. This is its future. And then it starts to warp space and time. And it opens this like multi-dimensional consciousness that sits beyond this fabric that we can see and touch and experience here, and pierces the very fabric of creation itself, and aligns more so with that like source consciousness that sits beyond this like solar, lunar, yin, yang, dualistic dichotomy that we find ourselves in here, right? So Mars, our driving, motivating force, at the start of March aligns with this. Now, March houses the equinox, right? This is where, like we had here at the end of 2023, at the end, like December 21st, we had the winter solstice. This is when our sun aligned with the galactic center and the pole star and the axis mundi. Then we start to merge with society as a whole. And the light starts to return. This was the peak of darkness here in the northern hemisphere, the peak of light for those of you down under, which I know there are some. Hi, Mel. And then the light slowly starts to return. Now, here in March, on the 19th, once we get to Aries season, once the sun here reaches 0 degrees of Aries, then we will have the equinox. We will have this period of balance. The sun and all of the personal planets, once they're done aligning with these black holes in Aquarius, they will be opposing the supergalactic center over here in Libra. So we have alignments with the supergalactic center later this month. Why is it, why can't I find it? Oh, Sun opposes the supergalactic center on the 22nd, like just a couple of days after the equinox. And then Mercury, Venus, Mars, they all will be doing that as well. So we are in this very multi-dimensional, intergalactic time, as we are at the end of every year. Now, we don't necessarily always have like Mars so close by because of its orbit, you know, but usually we have several of the personal planets transit these black holes the same time every year, right with Pisces smack dab between. So Pisces being that spiritual dimension, Pisces being that realm of psychic senses, of dreams, of mysticism, and of course of the great grand illusion, right? All right, so On the 1st, not only does Mars reach its conjunction with this black hole that I've apparently had to give you a very long spiel about, the sun here at 11 degrees of Pisces, which is still very much conjunct Saturn, very much conjunct Mercury, although the Mercury conjunction is not exact yet. Oh, yes, it was exact. It was exact on the 28th, so just a couple of days ago. It was all exact. Mercury, the Sun, and Saturn were all exactly conjunct just a couple of days ago. And now on the 1st, the Sun comes into a sextile with Jupiter. So the Sun here is sextiling, working harmoniously with Jupiter, the planet of expansion, the planet of growth, the traditional ruler of Pisces. Both Neptune and Jupiter are co-rulers of Pisces. Jupiter was the traditional ruler of Pisces up until Neptune's discovery in the 1800s. So we have our Sun in Pisces conjunct Mercury, that planet of information, communication, which is moving forward. The message, right? And then Saturn, which, Saturn gets a bad rap, but I actually fucking love Saturn in Pisces. Saturn probably doesn't like being in Pisces. I don't think Saturn likes being in Pisces because Saturn is the planet of structure and limitations and restriction. And Pisces is none of those things. Pisces is the boundaryless, unrestricted, free-flowing, immutable realm, right? So it's very hard to manifest. It's very hard to pin down. That's why it is so confusing. That's why it is so illusionary. That's why it governs madness and seclusion and escapism and all of these things. Now Saturn, the planet of boundaries, transiting through here helps us to give some structure to the unstructurable. It also will help obliterate any structures that we had. We went over this in a previous video. But Saturn here conjunct a very nebulous Pisces sun helps to give structure to like the messages, to our mind's connection to this realm, and also to like the illusion being painted on the world stage. It helps to solidify some of the spell, if that kind of makes sense. So we can keep that in mind with whatever sort of world events fuckery is going on by March. I'm sure it will be monumental. I'll have to do like a little recap videos on these too, once we actually see what's going on in the world and how these archetypes are manifesting for us collectively. But for us, especially, once Mercury starts transiting over Neptune, like the message, the vision, the dream, the spiritual realm is speaking. And so that is why this essence of like prayer and connection to the divinity that is all around us and all within us is going to be so important during this time, because it can really be heard, if that kind of makes sense. All right. And the sun sextiling, as all of these little conjunctions happening here, it's happening in a sextile to Jupiter, the ruling planet of Neptune. So it's working the ruling planet of Pisces. So it's working harmoniously with that benefic, that planet of wisdom, that planet of optimism, that planet of expansion and philosophical exploration, which is in Taurus right now. And so this message coming through can be very practical, can be very tangible. It can be really something we need to help us support ourselves during these like trying spiritual times we find ourselves in. Yeah. All right, let me see. We also have Venus coming into an exact sextile with Chiron on that day. Mars still well within orb to being part of that sextile as well. Both of our benefics, Jupiter and Venus are making harmonious aspects on that day. Venus, our relationships, our values, coming into a harmonious aspect with Chiron, our wounds, our wisdom, who is still conjunct the North Node, almost exactly still conjunct the North Node. So this has a lot to do with this like fated destined path we're all trucking on right now in Aries and Libra. That the eclipses, which we're about to be heading in to eclipse season later this month in March, our first eclipse falls on the 25th. It's a Libra lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Libra, exactly conjunct my sun. You guys, exactly conjunct my sun. All of these eclipses are like exactly conjunct all my things, but this one is as close as it can be. Okay, so Venus coming into sextile with Chiron, it helps our relationships to heal through this like deep Piscean influence, right? This is deeply spiritual, this is deeply compassionate, this is rooted in empathy and those feels, right? All right. So right around the same time that Venus is coming into this sextile with Chiron and the North Node, it's coming into a square with Uranus. So while it wants to work together with Chiron, our wounds, the transmutation of those wounds into the elixir that is going to help us to fulfill this North Node destiny we are trying to develop in whatever house Aries governs in our chart. Venus, our values, our relationships, wants to work harmoniously with the wounded healer. In order to do this, it has to find some sort of balance between it and Uranus, all right? So it is coming into a square with Uranus. Now, Uranus wants to push us forward. Uranus wants to liberate us. Uranus wants to change. It wants reform. It wants change, progress, forward, not change that reverts us back to something we've done. It's not that kind of change. It is the kind of change that pushes us forward and frees us from some sort of restricted influence, right? So in order for the healing that Venus and Chiron want to do at this time, look and see what these houses are, where these houses fall, for you to kind of understand how this will be falling in your chart. Like if Venus is, like if Aquarius governs your 10th house, then these relationships are probably business related. They're probably happening at like your place of employment. It may be your dad though, because of the 10th house. If it is here in your 11th house, if you have a natural chart and you are an Aries rising, then these relationships would probably be more like friends or rooted in the collective. Now, if you are a Leo rising and you have Aquarius in your 7th house, then these relationships are definitely like one-on-one relationship dynamics, maybe even marriage, right? So looking to see how this falls in your chart will help you to understand how this is playing for you. But Venus wants to work with Chiron, all right? At the same time that the Sun wants to work with Jupiter. So like Venus wants to heal and knows that this healing is rooted in this new path of destiny that's unfolding for us. The Sun wants to grow. It wants to expand. It wants to connect deeply, spiritually. Jupiter and all of this shit in Pisces literally governs the wisdom that can be obtained within the spiritual dimension. So much growth is happening right now, but it will require an essence of change and action, right? I mean, we got Mars here too. Mars is about to come into that square with Uranus as well. Like action is inevitable. It is inevitable, and it may be like just thrown at you from left field. All of these squares to Uranus bring unpredictable events. I couldn't even guess if I could. I have no idea how this is going to manifest. And we're just inching closer and closer and closer to the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which is exact in April. We'll talk about that next week when we meet back to go over April, May, and June. But it literally happens on Hitler's birthday, you guys. It happens on April 20th, just a couple of days after the really big total solar eclipse on the 8th. And it happens on 4/20, which is Hitler's birthday. And I find this significant because Uranus literally has not been here in Taurus since World War II. I don't know. On a collective stage, I assume there to be unpredictable, big, cataclysmic, fiery events that affect the entire collective of humanity as a whole, and our relationship dynamics, our values, and how we fight for them, our fight and flight response, due to unpredictable events that could very much happen in the realm of like finances or resources or production, or really just be this echo of a world war. Which, I mean, this is not profound prophecy. Like, we already kind of know this is where humanity is headed. It is literally just a matter of time. I mean, we're already in it. We're already funding multiple fronts already. All right. I knew I should have filled that up. It was like halfway full. I'm like, no, if I have it full, then you're going to drink too much. And yeah, but now I'm going to run out. Oh well. All right, so where are we at? What are we talking about? Venus square Uranus on the 3rd of March, all right? Now, on the same day, the Sun opposes Juno. Mercury opposed Juno on the 1st, and the Sun opposes Juno on the 3rd. Now, Juno is actually the wife to Jupiter. Jupiter is Zeus, Roman Greek equivalent, and Juno is his wife. Now, he was not a very good husband. He was a womanizing asshole, and she was very jealous and vindictive, as, I mean, it was warranted. But archetypally, astrologically, this asteroid is associated with marriage, because even though her marriage was kind of a shit show, she was the patron of marriage and domestic relationships. We covered her a little bit more deeply in the previous videos, but she governs domestic relationship dynamics. So the Sun and Mercury, the same time that Venus wants to work harmoniously with Chiron, the Sun wants to work harmoniously with Jupiter. Both the Sun and Mercury, the message and the mind in our realm of communication, which right now is really in the feels, like the compassionate. You have your Sun trine Juno, natally, Millie. What was I saying? So Venus wants to work harmoniously with Chiron. The Sun wants to work harmoniously with Jupiter. And this is happening simultaneously, that like changes are being forced within us. And the Sun and Mercury, the message, the mind, communication, which is really in the depths of that like compassionate, empathetic realm, is opposing Juno here, which we talked about a little bit before. You can pause and read this. We've read it in a previous video, so I'm not going to read it right now. But Juno governs marriage. It governs conjugal, domestic partnerships, legal unions. It's also said to have somewhat to do with like finances and resources. You guys, like I said, you can pause and read this. So it'll be opposing the Sun at this time, and it is retrograde. So it is in the process of rewriting, restructuring, reconfiguring the realm of the domestic. And this will probably be a key theme during the beginning of March as Venus wants to make changes and is forced to take action. I really see big collective events transpiring. And the sun is working harmoniously with Jupiter, as is Saturn, as is Mercury, wanting to expand, wanting to grow, wanting to tap into that universal wisdom, right? All right. Mercury sextiles. Okay. So on the 4th, Mercury reaches 19 degrees. It'll be the first of these personal planets to do so. And now, rather than sextiling Jupiter as they were before, now all of these planets are starting to sextile Uranus. So everything is harmoniously aspecting these two planets as they prepare for their conjunction. So, like, even though we're entering into this storm, like, the storm wants to work with us. It wants to work with us to expand our consciousness, to awaken us, to liberate us. But it's probably going to do so through, like, shocking, unpredictable, erratic ways. So Mercury is the first planet here to do so. It comes into the sextile with Uranus on the 4th, the same time that Mars starts to sextile the North Node and Chiron. So remember, we talked about sextiles for a little bit in the last video. Sextiles are harmonious aspects like trines. Trines are an aspect between two of the same element, so like a water sign to a water sign. And sextiles, they're not the same element, but they are the same polarity. So they are either of the feminine or the masculine polarity. In this case, this is of the masculine, of the yang polarity. The Mars here in this air sign, sextiling Chiron, and the North Node here in this fire sign. So they are somewhat speaking each other's same language, at least of the same polarity. But they need to put in a little bit of effort to work together. But they want to work together, much like literally fire cannot burn without air. You know, they speak the same language, and if they can get to work together, then things can be really beautiful. So we have a lot of sextiles happening throughout the beginning of March. This isn't super easy flowing energy, and these aren't major triggers, although we do have all these squares to Uranus, but these aren't major triggers that force us into action, force us into balance, force us to find that harmony through struggles or conflicts. Brings things out, manifests things. No, this asks us to put in the effort. This asks us to put in the work. And if we do so, then there can be ease, then there can be benefit, then there can be harmony, right? And so we got Mars and Venus sextiling the Chiron and the North Node. We have all of these planets here sextiling Jupiter, and then all moving to sextile Uranus. Like, there is a lot of harmony in the cosmos in the beginning of March. The planet of action harmoniously aspecting the North Node. Like, we're being our will, our motivation, our driving force is starting its energetic pull towards this fated, destined path that is unfolding for us. This is the last major aspect that Mars or Venus will make to the nodes until they conjunct it. So this is the last chance to take some sort of action before a new chapter begins. This is really helping to fulfill things that were initiated previously, things that need to get done, like things that need to get like chalked off our list and out of the way before the new things that are right there on the horizon waiting to bloom can bloom. Like, this is really the energy of like, okay, what do I need to get out of the way so that what is ready to be born can be born in the spring, right? Okay, let's see here. Mars reaches its exact sextile with Chiron on the 6th, okay? And on the 7th, Juno trines Jupiter. So Juno, which is again a retrograde here in Virgo, the sign of service and of healing and of health and of duty and responsibility and like practical action. Juno here comes into a trine, so very harmonious, free-flowing energy with Jupiter, her husband, Zeus himself. And so those domestic dynamics are really being called to work with each other and exchange that energetic flow, right? That trine, the energy is flowing. Let me see what is over here. The moon will, during that exact day on the 7th, the moon will help make a grand earth trine briefly there on the 7th before it moves. Let me see, be like late earlier in the day. I guess it'll be exact on the 6th. Close enough. All right, let's see. So we got Jupiter working with Juno, so we can really expand, we can grow when it comes to this dynamic. Remember, Jupiter had a retrograde cycle that ended in the beginning of 2024, so it has rewritten, restructured, reconfigured this area of our chart. And now Juno, his wife, is doing something very similar over here in Virgo. I don't know when Juno's retrograde ends. Let me see here. I have the retrograde stuff here. April. Stations direct in April. It stations direct in April. April 21st. Literally the day after. Oh, probably stations. So Juno will station direct on April 21st. The day after the exact conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus. So I wonder what degree that's at. It's at 6 degrees. So we'll make it all the way back to 6 degrees here. That's very interesting. It's so interesting that it's tied so closely to Jupiter's big like change. Jupiter's big awakening is the same time that Juno decides she wants to station direct. She's like, okay, I can go direct now that you've been like electrically shocked awake. Okay. So on the 8th, Mercury will conjunct Neptune. All right. So this is a very Piscean transit. All right. We already are deeply in the realm of Pisces. Like, look at all of this stuff we've got here. We've got Neptune. We've got Mercury. We've got the Sun. We've got Saturn. We have lots. Plus, they are all harmoniously aspecting Jupiter, the planet of big, the planet of expanding everything it touches, the ruling planet of Pisces. Like, it is a very Piscean dynamic, which we have to embrace. We cannot run from. We have to understand that we are in the realm of Pisces. Things are not as they seem, but there are profound truths that we can find within this merger with the whole. This is literally the psychic, spiritual, mystic, multidimensional dimension. This is the archetypal expanse of the Akashic field. This is the cosmic whole, right? This is the merger with the totality of all that is. And Mercury are the planet that more so governs our very logical, analytical forefront of our mind. comes into a conjunction with Neptune on the 8th. It's later in the day when it's exact. I don't have the exact time here, so it's just a little bit later. It comes into an exact conjunction with Neptune on the 8th. And the Sun and Mars at that same time make aspects to Uranus. So Mars sits in a square to Uranus, and the Sun sits in a sextile to Uranus. So both the Sun and Mercury have a lot to do with our consciousness. The Sun has a lot more to do with like our identity, our persona, our vitality, our conscious like life force almost. And Mercury has a lot more to do with like our thinking, learning, analytical, questioning mind, right? So we have both of these transiting through Pisces, this like mutable, etheric, boundaryless realm. And on the 8th, Mercury is the first planet. All of these planets will soon. Mars and Venus aren't far behind. Saturn is going to take quite a while. Saturn won't reach Neptune until 2025, and it'll do so in Aries. But within weeks of each other, or even days, Mercury, the Sun, Venus, and Mars are all going to come and conjunct Neptune. So we are in the realm of Neptune and in the depths of Pisces. It's in its home sign and it's at the end of it. And it is sitting in a square to the galactic center, which is exact. When is it exact? It's exact on the 13th. So Neptune is exactly square the galactic center on the 13th. Now this is its third and final exact pass of this because of its retrograde cycle, but it's sitting in a square to galactic center. So the planet of psychic senses, of dreams, of spirituality, and its home sign, in the depths of the collective unconscious, in the tail end of this merger with the whole of what this whole zodiac is all about, is sitting in a square to both the galactic center and the pole star, right? So the triggers are coming from the sources of singularity. Like, this is what this message is all about. Mercury is part of the square as well. The conjunction with Mercury with Neptune is in a square to the galactic center and the pole star. The Sun will reach its conjunction with Neptune later in the month. And on the 17th, the same day that it too comes into a square with the galactic center and the pole star. Pisces season is profoundly psychic. Like, I don't know, if you are having dreams, if you are having synchronistic, symbolic understandings of your reality, even clear cognizant downloads of information, because there is so much coming through our intuition, through our psychic senses because of Neptune conjunct Mercury, but then also these aspects to Uranus. So the Sun here in a sextile to Uranus, Mars here in a square to Uranus. Uranus literally governs those clear cognizant downloads of information that just kind of come out of nowhere, and you're just like, oh my gosh, how did I not always know that, or like, where did that come from, or things just kind of like fall in your lap. All right, on the 8th, Mercury conjunct Neptune. Conjunct Neptune on the 8th. Mars square Uranus on the 9th. Sun sextile Uranus on the 9th. And then Mercury enters Aries on the 9th. Okay? So Mercury enters later on the 9th. Mercury enters Aries on the 9th, and then it will be the first of the personal planets to oppose the super galactic center. The Sun will do so a little bit after the equinox. Venus and Mars will soon follow. So Aries, Mercury moving into Aries will feel like a breath of fucking fresh air, because we've really been kind of drowning in the spiritual dimension. Now, if you have a lot of Pisces placements, like, or even like strong Neptune aspects or whatever, like this may not be as hard for you, even if you have a lot of water placements in your chart. If you are like me and you don't, I mean, I have some water, but it's Scorpio, I don't really count it. And you have a lot of air and a lot of fire, Pisces season can be quite rough. So when all of the planets start to move out of the depths of it all, and rise here in Aries, it can feel like a breath of fresh air. It can feel like our vitality, our spirit, our identity, our self starts to return, starts to be reborn from this cosmic womb we just merged with and lost ourselves a little bit, so that we could transcend that self, so we can transcend that ego, so we can connect more deeply to the divine, and then we are reborn from it once more. And then we start to begin our next individuation process and the development of the individual, which comes to its peak here at the solstice, and then we'll merge with the whole again, lose ourselves a little bit, and then be reborn again, and it continues on and on and on, and this is how we develop. So when Mercury moves into Aries, that 0 degree cardinal point, like, I love this. This is my North Node is right here. It's opposite my sun. Whenever everything starts moving out of Pisces, I'm just like, hallelujah, it's me with the prayer. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. I understand the benefit of Pisces a lot, but man, and if you guys have followed my work for a while, I usually come back every year from like Pisces where I'm like, oh, so I just had a total existential crisis, but I'm back, guys, so here I am. All right, so Mercury enters Aries on the 9th. And then on the 10th, we have our first moon of the month, which is a new moon. This is our last moon before eclipse season starts. All right, so this is the last new moon of the zodiac. All right, so new moons are new beginnings. They start new things that manifest over a 6-month period and culminate 6 months later. So when the zodiac starts in the spring, we have a new moon in Aries that culminates in the fall, and so forth. This is the last one. So this is a story, the last of the stories that this zodiac cycle is here to manifest for us. And this is when the seeds are planted. But we don't actually know what this is all about for 6 months until Virgo season, right before the fall equinox. All right, so we have a Pisces moon on the 10th that falls at 20 degrees of Pisces. All right, so we have the sun and moon conjunct Pisces. Now, if this isn't already somewhat disorienting enough, being as though it's a Pisces moon, being as though it's conjunct Neptune, and Mercury here, where is it? Mercury here is in a sextile to Pluto. I actually like this. I'll talk about that in a second. But if this isn't already disorienting enough, Pisces is a very disorienting realm. It's literally the like wonderland space, right? It's the mirror of our collective psyche. If this isn't already disorienting enough, this new moon falls on the same day as the time change. You guys know that I think the time change is a total fucking psyop. They always love to tie it close to the equinoxes, these periods of balance, of harmony, where we finally feel like we're coming out of that darkness and the light is returning. We're reaching that essence of equilibrium, and the yin and yang are balanced within us, the light, the dark, the day, the night. We're like, harmony. And they're like, nope, we're taking an hour. Nope, we're giving an hour. Now, I know not all of you guys live where there are time changes. Arizona doesn't do it at all. I don't know about all the other countries. I don't know if they do that in Australia or whatever, but they definitely do it where I live. And the time changes the same day as this Pisces moon. So we're going to feel very out of it. Not only is it conjunct Neptune, which makes us dreamy and sleepy and disoriented, it literally governs these altered states of consciousness, but we're going to be gaining an hour. And so everything is going to seem kind of off kilter. Now, our mind is kind of working on all cylinders. It was just reborn out of the depths of Pisces. It's at 0 degrees of Aries. It's on and popping. It's getting ready to enter its shadow period the week prior. It enters its shadow the day before the equinox, but it's not there yet. So it's still moving forward. And it's doing so in a sextile to Pluto. Now, this is the first major aspect that Mercury has made to Pluto since its conjunction with Pluto back right around the time the Sun conjuncted Pluto in January, when we had Pluto and the Sun move in here together, conjunct at 0 degrees. Mercury transited that as well, and it was this like deeply penetrating mind. It pierced into some new realm of information. The detective within us was all activated. Now, whatever that was may be coming up again now, because Mercury is wanting to work with Pluto again. But it has to put in the effort. It's not going to come as easy as that conjunction. Those two planets are merged. They are working together at conjunction. At a sextile, they have to reach out. They have to grab each other, but they can. And they can do so to our benefit. Okay, so Pisces moon. I mean, you guys know, of course, I'll do videos for these when it comes time to them, and we'll dive all into it. Let me just see the major aspects. Okay, so it's just the square to Uranus. So not only do we have the Sun conjunct Neptune and the Moon during a time change, but it's also in a square. No, it's in a square to my Uranus. It's in a sextile to Uranus. It's in a sextile to Uranus. So it wants to work harmoniously with this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. It wants to push us forward. It wants to expand our horizons. It wants to awaken us. It wants to liberate us. It might do so in big, grandiose, unexpected ways. But we're really going to feel out of it. We're going to feel kind of out of it. And if you're being called to like literally just like nap, or I mean, I don't know if napping is the best when we're gaining an hour, because then it's harder, like you're messing your schedule up even more. But if you're being called to rest or retreat inward, it's highly recommended during this time. All right. It's going to be a weird moon. That one's definitely going to be a weird moon. It's going to be weird. Maybe not for those of you who aren't having that time change, but even with Neptune there, it's just going to be so weird. It's going to be weird. And this is literally happening as Neptune is in a square to the galactic center and the pole star. Mercury is still within a square too. The message, like Mercury is still well within a conjunction to Neptune. Like our mind is merged with the Neptunian fog. And then the time changes. So that's fun. Okay, so on the 11th, Mercury conjuncts the asteroid Magdalena, and it does so the same time that it opposes the supergalactic center. So Mercury is actually in a T-square right now, or Grand Cross. Mercury is in a Grand Cross with Mercury, our mind, our message, the realm of information and communication of it. The relayer of consciousness, the planet that literally carries the torch of consciousness throughout the chart. Mercury is sitting opposite the supergalactic center, the black hole that 130 galaxies, including our own, rotates around. It's sitting in a square to the galactic center, and it's sitting in a square to the pole star. All of these sources of singularity. The pole star is the still star that all the stars rotate around from Earth's perspective. The galactic center is the black hole that all of the stars rotate around in the Milky Way galaxy, 100 billion stars. And the supergalactic center is the black hole that 130 galaxies all rotate around. And Mercury here, just being reborn from the depths of the cosmic womb, is aspecting all of those points. The same time that it conjuncts the asteroid Magdalena. So the message, although it will be quite galactic and transcendent in its like core essence, may be coming through. I love that the moon will be transiting at the same time as well, coming off of that new moon conjunction. But it may be coming again through that realm of feminine mysteries, right? Through the realm of union, through the realm of divine partnership, through the realm of the feminine mysteries, and the wisdom that resides within those rites that have been kind of erased to time. We talked about this a little bit more in the last video, and I've done such deep videos on it in the past over on Patreon. If you're a Patreon member, maybe look back on some of the videos. One of the favorite things of mine that I uncovered, and I think we read this out of one of these books, the Illustrated Bloodline of the Holy Grail. And remember, like, Mary Magdalene is considered to be that like 13th apostle, that divine partner to Jesus and his most favorite of his disciples, the first to see him after his resurrection. And it can be argued that not only was she his wife according to the scriptures, but she also had conceived his child, because some of the things that she has said to have done to him, some of the anointings that she has said to have done to him, are things that only a wife does, and only a wife after conception. Apparently they had a very specific marriage rites back then, where they actually had two marriage ceremonies. The first one was done in the fall, and then they were separated from each other. In the winter, they reunite for like a moment of conception, and then they're separated from each other again for 3 months. And then if there was conception during the like get down moment, then again in the spring, there is a second wedding. And after that second wedding, there are certain religious rites that are done, certain anointings and whatnot, only ever done after the second wedding, which is only ever done if conception occurs. And these anointings were apparently done by her to Jesus. So it means that they were not only married, but that there was a conception. And this happened right before his crucifixion. So this tells me that this is a story of divine partnership that has been erased to time, but is a core essence of these teachings. So this is something that may be coming up at this time for us each individually, personally, archetypally, within our reality. Okay. On the same day that Mercury conjuncts Magdalena and opposes the supergalactic center, right here at this like equinox degree, Venus enters Pisces. Now, Venus really likes to be in Pisces. Much like when Mars entered Capricorn in the beginning of the year, his sign of his exaltation, he fucking loves that. It's very nice. Venus is exalted in Pisces. She loves being in Pisces. She is able to express herself even more fully in the sign of Pisces than she can in her own signs. Traditionally, Venus governs Taurus and Libra. And as somebody with a father with a Taurus stellium and somebody who personally has a Libra stellium, neither one of these signs are really too good on relationships. Libra is a little heady and dissociative, and Taurus is very stubborn. Oh, it's so bad. Venus, while in Pisces, while it does lose its boundaries, thank God Saturn is here, while it does lose its boundaries, it is finally able to connect to that essence of love. That spiritual, higher, evolved essence of love. And connect more deeply, because the boundaries dissolve, right? The rigid fixed walls of Taurus, or the heady dissociative illusionary harmony of Libra are dissolved, and true connection can transpire. So Venus really likes being in Pisces. While in Pisces, she is going to sextile all of Jupiter and Uranus as well, just like the Sun did, just like Mercury did. So our two benefics, Venus and Jupiter, will be working harmoniously together. This is actually quite beautiful. I really, really like this. And looking to see where these houses are will help you to see how this will be manifesting in your chart. This is my 7th house, so I'm hoping this is good. Jupiter is over there in my 9th. All right, so my stomach hurts. I have really bad cramps, but I'm trying to truck through. Okay, 8:33, so we still got time. All right, so let's move to the 13th. On the 13th, Neptune comes into its exact square with the galactic center and the pole star. Really kind of feeling that. The sun soon to follow. The sun is over here at 23 degrees. It joins on the 17th. Conjuncts Neptune on the 17th in an exact square to the galactic center. So the sun conjuncts Neptune every year, all right? And this is a profound period of either confusion or illusion or delusion or creativity or inspiration or vision or psychic sensitivity or compassion or empathy or any one of these Neptunian, Piscean archetypes, right? Now this can also be the realm of spells and fear and isolation and whatnot on a world stage or on a personal dynamic. This can have a lot to do with escapism and addictions and whatnot. But this is a beautiful aspect for spiritual connection. This happens every year. Now this year, it happens in an exact square to the galactic center and the pole star. So remember how I talked earlier about if you find your northern star, if you find your axis mundi, you can have that center force guide you through the storm, right? Through the fall, through the merger with the whole. Well, this would be a really great time to hone that activation. The triggers that are coming to this conjunction are coming from those sources of singularity. If these are something we've started to hone within ourselves, look and see where the galactic center and the pole star fall for you. What houses do these fall in? The galactic center falls in my 4th house. The pole star falls in my 10th house of home and career, mother and father, inner world, outer world. So that's where it falls for me. Now looking to see what houses these fall in will help you to understand how you can hone that northern star, how you can activate that center force. But if you have had these activated during this time, then you won't lose yourself during this Neptune conjunction. You won't fall for whatever sort of mass psychosis probably takes place on the world stage around this time. And we got Mercury transiting the North Node. We got Venus conjunct Saturn. We have Mars square Uranus. We have a lot going on. I'm sure there will be world events. All right, I'm sure there will be world events. Let's just say that. Who knows what? I'm not going to try to predict them. It's unpredictable stuff, especially Mars conjunct square Uranus. Nobody can predict what that is. Nobody knows. Unpredictable action. Okay, so on the 17th, the Sun conjuncts Neptune the same time that it squares the galactic center. This would be a really profound day to connect to that prayer, right? Connect to the essence of divinity itself. This is the tail end of Pisces season. We will have made it over that Piscean hump. We are right around the corner from the equinox, from that rebirth, from that new track of the hero's journey. And this day, the 17th through to the equinox, would be a very profound day for some sort of like intentional spiritual practice. Okay? All right. On the 18th, Mercury will make its exact conjunction with the North Node. All right. The Sun soon to follow, and eclipse season soon to kick off. This really starts to give voice to the eclipse season that's right around the corner. It starts on the 25th with a Libra eclipse over here, and then we have the April Aries eclipse on the 8th, which we'll talk about next week. So this Mercury conjunction to the node really starts to bring our attention, bring our mind, the forefront of our mind, to whatever this next story is. We're moving out of this and we're starting to move into whatever this is about. Some huge change, some massive transformation is right around the corner for each and every one of us. Okay. On that same day that Mercury conjuncts the North Node, it enters its retrograde shadow. All right. So the exact same day that it touches the node, it enters its shadow period. So it's going to reach this point 3 times. There's a message trying to come through that we won't fully understand until April, until the end of eclipse season, until the end of Mercury retrograde, which officially starts on the 1st of April. But its retrograde shadow starts the day before the equinox on the 18th at 15 degrees of Aries. 15 degrees, 59 minutes, so right about 16 degrees of Aries. All right. On the 19th is the equinox. The equinox is exact on the 19th. Sometimes it's the 20th. Sometimes it's the 21st. It's exact on the 19th this year. The time is 8:06 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the sun enters Aries. Now, on the same day as the sun entering Aries, literally being reborn from the cosmic womb itself, Mercury starting its shadow conjunct the North Node. We also have Psyche conjunct Pluto. So we've talked about Psyche extensively in these past several videos. Psyche is that asteroid that is associated with the ascension of our soul. And the awakening of the unconscious parts of ourselves and the making of them conscious. And then our ascension and our awakening because of these like trials and tribulations. And it also revolves around this essence of like divine union. And it's like union, not just with a partner, although it does very much govern that like romance, right? But it's union with the force that animates the cosmos and experience and this entire thing that we're doing here. Yeah, that's as far as we're going to get into it. We've covered it in all of the past videos. I can't do the whole myth every time or we'll be here forever. You guys know I want to. It's very hard for me to summarize myself. But Psyche is the essence of our soul and the awakening of it through experience and union with the divine. And it will be conjunct Pluto at the time of the equinox. So our sun is being reborn and our soul is being transformed. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. And the same time that our sun is moving from 29 degrees of Pisces, death, to 0 degrees of Aries, rebirth, the asteroid that governs our soul is transiting Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth. So we are really feeling a resurrection at this time. Interesting that that sun that is going through its death and rebirth is doing so conjunct Magdalena, the first to see the Son of God after his death and resurrection. And this is literally all happening here right around Easter, the time of the death and resurrection. I find this archetypally beautiful. And so we will all very much be going through this death and resurrection, moving from the storm to the prayer, awakening once more, right? Awakening from this cosmic slumber we were all in. All right, so Mercury will exactly conjunct Chiron the day after the equinox. So moving off of the node, coming over to Chiron. Both the North Node and Chiron are key players in this Mercury retrograde cycle. They will be transited by Mercury 3 times. Mercury will be stationing direct over here when it finally finishes its retrograde cycle. This is its first of 3 passes over the North Node over Chiron. So a message is being pulled through in regards to the healing that has transpired already, the healing that still needs to be done, the wisdom that we have acquired because of it, and the pioneering path we're being asked to trek out into when it comes to this fated, destined manifestation that is manifesting before our eyes through the Aries Libra eclipse cycle, which we are right around the corner from. And we're about to get to that first one here in 1 second. So as Psyche, our soul, finishes its transit here with Pluto, this conjunction with Pluto, the sun here, who is experiencing this rebirth, right? It is coming out of the 29 degrees of Pisces death for this 0 degree Aries rebirth at the equinox, at the point of the resurrection, conjunct Mary Magdalene, the Son of God's divine partner. And it is doing so in a sextile, in a harmonious aspect to Psyche, our soul, who is having a death and rebirth of her own over here in Aquarius. Psyche is much like a female Christ-like figure. She has a similar motif about her. And she experiences many deaths and rebirths along her trajectory to her ultimate status as a god, from humanhood to godhood, through that awakening process. But this is working harmoniously. Our sun's death and resurrection and union with a divine partner is happening in a harmonious aspect with Psyche's conjunction with Pluto. Where's Eros? And Eros is conjunct Jupiter. So Eros is Psyche's divine partner, and at this time, it will be transiting Jupiter, that planet of growth, planet of expansion. Okay. Mars enters Pisces on the 22nd. So even though the sun is moving out, Mercury is moving out, we still got Venus and Mars, those 2 personal planets, moving through Pisces. So we'll be feeling that essence of rebirth. We'll be feeling that, oh God, once the sun moves out of there, I really do feel it every year. I'm just like, oh, breath of fresh air. We'll feel it, but we're still, our motivating, driving force is still being focused on that inner, unconscious, spiritual dimension. All right. Eros's exact conjunction with Jupiter is on the 24th, here at 15 degrees of Taurus in a sextile to Venus. So Venus is in a sextile to Jupiter, both of astrology's benefics. When is this exact? Why don't I see it? Venus sextile Jupiter. Venus conjunct Saturn on the 21st. Venus conjunct Pluto on the 3rd. Venus sextile Pluto. I don't know why maybe I missed it. I don't know. I'll just figure it out myself. Okay, so Venus is at 15 degrees, 16 minutes. Okay, so yeah, on the 24th. So Eros conjuncts Jupiter on the same day that Jupiter comes into its sextile with Venus. Eros and Venus is Eros's mother, and Venus is conjunct Saturn. Venus and the Venus-Saturn conjunction was exact on the 21st. Now, Venus and Saturn conjunctions, they're kind of hard to read. It kind of depends how it's aspecting your chart. It kind of depends how it's falling. This can be like really good, or this could be really restrictive. Venus is one of astrology's benefics. It wants to work harmoniously with that which it touches. With Saturn, this can really bring lessons or restriction or limitation, or commitment or longevity. Venus conjunct Saturn can be the type of aspect that gets us married, or the type of aspect that gets us divorced. It can be the kind that brings tests that bring us closer together. In this case, this could be like deeply spiritual, unconscious tests, or they can be the kind that make us face karmic parts of ourselves. It can really be one of two ways. These are relationship tests or relationship solidifying experiences. Things that bring commitment, things that bring longevity, things that bring karmic tests and lessons. Now this is happening in a harmonious aspect to Jupiter and Eros. The same time that Eros' divine partner is conjuncting Pluto in a harmonious aspect to the Sun. So all of these archetypes that we have been discussing through these last 3 videos, you can see how they've been aspected time and time again, are like key players in the retrogrades, key players in a lot of these like major aspects. These are some of the like archetypes that are behind the scenes, right? Maybe I will just read this one more time. All right, we've done this in every video, but this is my little summary on Psyche and my little summary on Eros. I'm not going to dive into the whole myth because it takes me like 20 minutes to get through the whole thing. But I'll read these little summaries. And then we've just got a little bit more left to do here. All right, so Psyche, like I said before, astrologically is associated with psychic and physical bonding, raw erotic love, psychological wounds, recovery, and the ascension of the soul. The word psyche is literally Greek for soul. It's associated with recognition of childhood trauma, trials, tests, quests, and initiations, memory, insight, psychic impressionability, psychological recovery, and the state of your mental health. Some students of Jungian psychology have chosen the Psyche myth as the female story, considering it symbolic of the effort to bring the unconscious up to the realm of the conscious, particularly when conjunct Pluto, which is learning the depths of the unconscious, but it's here in Aquarius, the collective conscious. It's literally going to make the collective aware of some of the depths of our collective psyche at this time. Now, Eros, which is conjunct Jupiter at this time, is Psyche's divine partner. He is the divine lover and partner to Psyche, our soul. This archetype represents immense primordial force of desire for manifestation and experience, which informs the entire cosmos. It shows active energy, passion, romance, and willpower, including sexual passion and attraction. Eros symbolism includes the idea of passion as suffering, our will to live, and our passion for life. Archetypally speaking, according to Jung, Eros is ultimately the desire for wholeness. And although it may initially take the form of passionate love, it is more truly a desire for psychic relatedness, especially when aspecting Venus. Psychic relatedness, a desire for interconnection and interaction with other sentient beings. All right. So on the 25th, eclipse season officially kicks off with a Libra eclipse. It's a penumbral eclipse, which is not a total lunar eclipse. It is when the moon moves into Earth's shadow. So it's a penumbral lunar eclipse, and it falls at 5 degrees of Libra. Let me just get this. It falls at 12 a.m. on March 25th at 5 degrees, 7 minutes of Libra. Oh my god, it is aspecting the hell out of my chart. It's literally conjunct my sun, square my Neptune, conjunct my south node, opposite my north node, trining my freaking midheaven. Okay, alright. I have high hopes for it. Look, I have the nodes conjunct my sun. The eclipses control my life. Fate and destiny controls my life. I have very little say in anything that happens to me. I am just in for the whirlwind ride, and then things just, I don't even know, you guys. It is so crazy how synchronistic and fated my life is, and I attribute it to my sun being conjunct my nodes, being born smack dab in the middle of eclipse season. It's like my life is one giant eclipse season, and eclipses always come and propel me in such profound ways that I don't really fear them anymore. I mean, I didn't like when my dog died and all that during eclipse season. That really fucking sucked. So I'm not really looking forward to anything like that happening, but even that was strangely fated and so synchronistic, and I totally knew it was coming. But yeah, anyway, March 25th, we have our first eclipse. This kicks off eclipse season that doesn't end until April. We'll talk about the second half of eclipse season next week. This falls conjunct the supergalactic center and the fixed star Zaniah, Zaniah, which is the arm of the maiden, the arm of the constellation of Virgo. So it falls in tropical Libra, but it falls in the constellation of Virgo, and this kicks off eclipse season. All right, this is going to be a profound culmination point. Now, this is the start of this eclipse season, but this particular lunar eclipse was seeded by our previous eclipse season and the new moon that we had in Libra during Libra season. That was when something started in this realm that is coming to its culmination, coming to a fruition at this time, a fated, karmic, destined culmination that is rooted in our relationship dynamics and our path of individuality as well, because of the Aries influence. So this is the axis of self and others. Now, this falls conjunct the supergalactic center. So this is a really profound culmination point. Not only is it an eclipse, not only is it a full moon, which is already a culmination in and of itself, but it's an eclipse, and it's also conjunct the supergalactic center right around the equinox. This is going to be a pivotal moment when it comes to the month, when it comes to the year. This is something that has been building over the past 6 months in whatever areas of your chart Aries and Libra govern. There's new stories on the horizon here in Aries that will be seeded next month in April. But this is something that has been building over the past 6 months, building and being fueled by the hand of fate and destiny. All right. And a lot of the energy that's happening now in January as I film this, while we have all these planets in Capricorn, the energy now is also tied to this March energy, because all of those planets in Capricorn made squares to the nodes. So a lot of the stuff happening in January is pivotal to what will be happening in March. Fate has its hands in all up on the cardinal signs right now. Okay, so on a world stage, I feel like this moon is going to be quite chaotic collectively. I always like to point out that Libra governs peace and war. People think Aries governs war, but it doesn't. It governs the warrior. It governs the god of war, because it governs individuals. One thing. You can't war with yourself, although Aries can, and Aries can. Libra, which governs others, relationship dynamics, governs peace and harmony, but also war. It governs diplomatic relationships. It governs our connection to others, other countries. The sun moving into Aries, the sign that governs that aggression, that war, that new chapter, right around the equinox, Libra full moon, and then on the 26th, the day after the eclipse, Mercury comes into its exact conjunction with Eris, the goddess of chaos and discord, who is responsible for, or blamed for, starting the Trojan War. So I expect it to be quite chaotic. I expect it to be quite disruptive around this time. So while this is a Libra moon, which is ideally the planet, the sign of balance and harmony, I do not believe it is going to be anything like that at all. It's going to be quite chaotic. It's going to be quite disruptive. It's going to be very karmic in its play out. Okay. We're not going to cover everything, but I do want to kind of point out on the 29th, Ceres, who we've been talking about quite a lot, the goddess of the harvest, the Earth Mother, the first ever asteroid ever discovered, the biggest asteroid in the asteroid belt, associated with the earthly nature mother, right? It's associated with fertility. It's associated with abundance. It's associated with loving kindness. This asteroid, the biggest asteroid in the asteroid belt, will come into a square with the nodes on the 29th, right after the eclipse cycle kicked off, during eclipse season. So that energy, that archetype of fertility, of abundance, of nurturing, of the mother, of the land, of having everything you need to be able to be nurtured and taken care of. That archetype will be transiting through Capricorn in a square to the nodes. So look and see what house this falls in for you. It will be triggering this path of fate and destiny that is being highlighted by the eclipse season that we are in the midst of at this time. And this house can maybe offer you some sort of beneficial aid, some sort of abundance, some sort of fertility when it comes to this path of fate and destiny. I'm just going to put this here. You guys can pause and read it if you want. We've read it in the previous videos, so I'm not going to read it every time, but it's a little summary of Ceres. The sun will reach its exact conjunction with the asteroid Magdalena on the 30th, so we'll end March that way, right before Mercury stations direct on the 1st. So it reaches its exact conjunction with Magdalena on the 30th, right at the degree of the Cetus signal. So a couple of months ago, astronomers discovered that this area of the sky right here, it's actually at 10 degrees, so like one more minute away. This went to 60 minutes, but it's at 10 degrees of Aries in the constellation Cetus, the sea monster. There is a radio signal, a very regular radio signal that has been coming from this area of space every 2.2 days in a very repetitive, repeated way. Now, some people try to claim that this is aliens sending us signals, but we know what it is because astronomers can actually view this signal and they see what's happening. And what's happening, which they've never really seen happen before, is a planet is revolving around a star in this constellation in such a way that it is creating a very intense magnetic field, and these huge auroras, much like our aurora borealis, are being created, and they are literally shooting out this like energetic force from its core every 2.2 days. And that's happening right here. It's been happening for months. And the Sun Magdalena conjunction will be happening right on top of that signal. This literal signal coming from space itself. People think it's coming from aliens, but I think it's a lot cooler to think that space itself is sending us signals than some sort of like higher evolved species. It's literally the dance between this planet and its sun. Okay. All right, we'll wait to cover that until, because that's on the 1st. All right, so that's the last bit of March. We will meet next week, same way we did this week, where we did like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday next week, and we'll cover March, April, May, and June. And then we'll meet again in the summer to go over the second half, because this is just a lot of information. It's going to go in one ear and out the other. I think that's better for everybody. So we'll cover April. It kicks off with Atlantis stationing direct, Mercury stationing retrograde. We have the rest of the eclipse season. We have the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. The Jupiter-Uranus conjunction with Eros. We have a lot of things going on. So we'll dive into that next week. All right, we'll cover the next 3 months. Thank you guys for being here. We covered all the cards. We're good. All right, guys, have a great night, and I will see you later. I'll upload this into the platform. And those of you who are watching this later on YouTube, it is not too late to order the year ahead. You'll get access to all these videos ahead of time. Link down below in the caption will let you know how you can go about doing that, and then you can be here for the next live videos and our next meetup in the summer. All right, thanks guys. See you later. Bye.